All right, so once again, welcome back to our weekly real estate podcast. We're covering everything to do with real estate in Northern Nevada, and that's the problem with doing live is you get some text messages right in the middle. Today we have a special guest, Lynne Scott. How you doing, Lynne?
Good. How are you doing, Ken?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
She's a certified senior escrow officer with First Centennial Title, and one of the biggest questions we get all the time is the black box called the title company. What happens there? So what we would like to do today is kind of do some rapid fire.
Okay.
Ask you some questions that hopefully we can break up in another podcast and share with our clients so they know what they get into when they get into contract.
Perfect. Sounds good.
So first things first, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do for fun? And then tell us a little bit about First Centennial Title.
Okay. So I'm Lynne Scott, like Ken said, and I've been an escrow officer for 29 years. Love what I do. My personal life, I've got 3 grown children.
3 boys.
3 boys.
That's
yes.
crazy. We only have 2, so I can't imagine 3.
Lights of my life. Love bike riding, love being outdoors, love anything that has to do with outdoors, nature, and having fun.
Great.
Yeah.
And tell us about First Centennial Title. We use you guys quite a bit. I mean, we share escrows with a lot of different companies, but tell us a little bit about First Centennial Title and what makes you guys special.
Okay. I have been with First Centennial over 3 years, and I think it's a phenomenal company. They're very family-oriented, although the company itself is large. We've got affiliates in other states, other areas. We've been in this area for over 40 years.
Wow.
Very solid, very great feel to work at this company, and I can't say enough great things about First Centennial Title.
Great. Yeah, and then they have a lot of great things. We'll talk at the end, but if you're looking to move to the area, if you see this podcast, California, they have a lot of resources for not just agents. I know we can talk about that, but particularly for people who are coming to the area, and you can always get all these documents electronically, correct?
Correct.
So we'll kind of go over those at the end to kind of keep people around.
Perfect.
And then, but let's jump in and start talking about what a title company is. So the first question I have, and I have some questions right here. So you see me reading, what's the role of a title company in a real estate transaction?
In my opinion, we pull all the pieces together. So you have a lender, you've got a real estate agent, you have the title company. I handle the escrow, and then I have a title department here locally in Reno that handles the searching of the property, the looking at the public records to determine what's recorded, to determine easements, to determine CC&R. So you pull all those pieces together, and that's what escrow does. We work with the lenders to get loan documents and get people to sign, and once they sign their loan documents, we put it all in the public records, record documentation, we pay off loans, we handle all the money. So we're just basically the glue that binds.
That's correct. So one of the most important things is, and people don't know, is when you sign an earnest money check, you're the one that handles you're basically a third party that distributes the money, correct?
Correct. Yep. So we're the middle neutral third party.
Right. So if you get earnest money and all the numbers are kind of ran through Lynne, and then that's what we kind of come up with when we sign documents, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So they're the third party in the real estate transaction between the buyer and the seller, and the agents, and you guys have a lot of people you're working with.
Correct.
So next thing that comes up a lot, and it's in the real estate contract that we sign, talking about preliminary title report. So sometimes it's called prelim. Is there any other names that they're called? There's some other names that aren't familiar. What are they?
Yes. Used to be the preliminary report for years. We have a commitment for title insurance. It means the same thing. Ours just means that we are giving a little bit of title coverage at the time we issue that commitment. So basically what it is, it's the title search. So again, showing all of the recorded easements, liens, judgments, loans against a property, who owns the property. So it's the whole full search of that property based upon what we found on the public records.
And that is important because a seller has to provide that to a buyer to provide clear title, and then First Centennial Title provides title insurance?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
So kind of how that works, and still getting some messages, sorry.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me into the next, what is title insurance? Obviously, when it protects the buyer from what?
Well,
and lender.
Correct, lender as well. That's a very big question. There's title companies in business for a reason. You look at insurance, and there's a reason you get your car insured or your house insured. We're the biggest investment that people make when they purchase a home. Let's say they're spending $500,000 on a home. They want to make sure that they don't lose that property because of a title defect or a problem in the title. And so there's people who call once in a while. They're like, I just want to deed this over. And, you know, I've been doing this a long time. You see a lot of problems. You see a lot of things come up. Ken and I were just talking about that with defects and
what are some
issues.
defects? I guess give me like the top 5 defects that you guys deal with. And how often are you called about a problem on title insurance for a piece of property? I don't know that.
That's a really good question. The biggest defect I've found over my years, and this was many years ago, a seller had an IRS lien against them, and the title company didn't pick it up in the title search.
Wow.
So it was posted a certain way with the owner's name. It was like $147,000. Title company misses it. IRS comes knocking on the door, and they can seize a property. So they knock on the door and say, hey, we're going to take your property. That's when you put in a title claim, because your title insurance company shouldn't have missed that. So number one, they either pay the claim, or if the claim is, you know, that great, then they would have to buy the property back, basically.
Wow.
So that's the ultimate, you know, that stuff happens. Usually what we do is we've got attorneys and people who would defend that title policy if there was a problem. But the list goes on and on and on. I mean, we've all, you know, seen and heard stories back in 08, 09 when there were a ton of mechanics liens going on. Those liens affected properties. You can get a home foreclosed upon by a mechanics lien. So you want to make sure that you've got a company behind you that'll help defend, fix, do what they need to do to ensure that your property is not going to be lost for some defect in the title that arises. The problem is you don't know what these problems are until it's too late. Like we were talking about, you know, somebody who might not be coherent enough to be able to sell the property. There's rules and laws that protect people against those types of defects. And if there was something that came up, again, you're a buyer, you've just invested a ton of money into this property, whether it's cash or, you know, whatnot. You want to make sure that you're insured so that you don't lose that property down the road.
Yes. Now, one of the questions I have is, and it might be specific to title companies, but if you are, because I see this a lot, and I just saw actually a request on the real estate Facebook page. Someone wants to switch a house from their name into an LLC. Does that void the title insurance?
It can. There's endorsements that we can get. You know, again, if you call the title company, I'm going to talk to you from a title perspective. My perspective is that you've got an insurance policy. You don't want to invalidate that insurance policy. So you as the owner, what can you do to make sure that your policy is still in full force and effect? Depending on what you're doing with the deed and the transfer, if you're the owner of that LLC, we can probably endorse that policy. So title insurance, there's different kinds that are offered, 2 different kinds. One's an extended policy, one's a standard policy.
Okay.
When it comes to extended, I highly recommend that you get that policy. It's such a minimal amount.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's like seriously like 10% or 5 to 10% of the total title, and it adds so much more, and it's such a small amount. And so
I'm glad to hear that we're in agreement on that, because there's some people who don't feel that it's
one of the big things I think it covers additionally, and I just looked at the policy, is and we ran into this just recently, is surveys, because sometimes people build properties over property lines, and I don't know if the standard policy on yours, but I know that came up in a purchase we're doing right now, where I'm thinking that the addition that was not permitted is over the property line. So that's something to be looking into.
Yes. Keep in mind your title policy, if you know about a defect or problem, then it might not be covered under your policy. So you want to address it before you close on that property. But yes, you're right. Building permit violations. Post policy means after closing. If there's encroachment issues you find out about, let's say you go to sell the home and the home's not built where it should be, like Ken mentioned. Let's say a fence isn't where it should be. That could also be something that's covered under your policy. The biggest thing I see right now is forgery. You got to be careful with forgery. Somebody pretends to be somebody they're not. I had a lady ask me yesterday, well, how can that happen? And I said, well, you just go and get a fake driver's license. I mean, I don't want to talk about all that, but you could probably scratch that.
No, it's a legitimate concern. And now, are you familiar with, I know it's out right now, where you can actually sign your property up and get alerts about anybody trying to put stuff against your property?
So Washoe County allows you to do that for free. You go online, you register your property, they'll email you once something records, and that's definitely something that people should be signing up for. That way it can help to avoid problems with somebody changing title in your property, or a lien being placed on your property you didn't know about, or...
Now, that's a new program, correct?
Correct.
And then they can probably go to the recorder's office, and there'll be a link, and we can actually post it on the video.
Perfect. Yeah,
okay, I'll get that
that's
from
fantastic.
you. But check into that, because then you get alerts when there's some funny business going on with your property.
Correct, and it's free, so there's
it's a
no
free
reason not
program,
to.
and it's all about protecting yourself. So.
And that leads me to Declaration of Homesteads. That's another free service in
Now,
our
so we
area.
talked about this, but if you want to cover a little bit more,
Okay.
I would love you, because this is one of the biggest things that people are missing out on.
Yes.
And if your agent's not telling you, people just don't know.
Correct.
But it protects you, especially if you have medical bills stacking up or something, and it basically blocks them from the sale. So yeah, if you can do like your 2 minute on this is an excellent topic, and we try and push.
Perfect. So again, it's free, a free service. You can go online, get the form online. I could help you with the legal description. We have a great customer service department. They'll pull documentation for you. But it's called a Declaration of Homestead.
Perfect.
I'm not an attorney, so don't quote me on any of this. But
neither one of us are attorneys.
Exactly. It'll protect up to a certain amount of your...
$605,000. We just had an attorney talk about it, but $605,000.
Perfect. So it protects up to that amount in your principal, your equity in the property. My big example is if I got into a car accident and I caused it, they could come sue me and try to take my property from me. So if I have that Declaration of Homestead recorded, it protects up to a certain amount, $605,000 of the equity in my property, so they wouldn't take my primary residence from me.
So you guys look into that. Call us. You can call the customer service, and also I'll put a link above. We just had an excellent attorney come in and talk about it. Get it done.
Yep, and there's you can do a link with the Declaration of Homestead, State of Nevada, so Ken will post that on there as well.
I just actually looked it up for a client that is doing it.
Perfect.
So look into that for sure.
Definitely worth it.
One of the biggest questions we get is, why is there a title policy for buyers and also lenders? It's a big confusion. And who typically pays for that? I know that there's a lot of confusion, and we just talked about this before we started this discussion on sellers are typically in our market. I don't know about California market, but Northern Nevada, it's pretty customary for the sellers to be paying for the owner's title policy.
Correct.
So keep that in mind, because she gets a lot of upset people, and then we get calls. It's in the contract. It spells it out, and it's not necessarily like that. It's just kind of whatever is checked and agreed upon in the contract.
Correct.
So if you can talk about why lenders and buyers, we talked about why buyers need it, but why does the lender need it? Because that's a big confusion.
If you have a policy that needs to be paid out, so a claim on the policy, and let's say we have to pay out on that policy, the owner is insured up to the purchase price of what they purchased it for. So let's use $500,000 as an example. Your lender's policy, let's say it's $250,000. They're insured up to $250,000. So if we have to pay out, we pay out on the lender's policy, but we also pay out on the owner's policy. Owner, if they only have if they have $250,000 in equity, that's what their policy payout would be at that time. So as you pay down your loan, your equity with the policy increases. So let's say you pay off your loan. At that point, your policy is now valued at $500,000 to you as the owner, and your lender's policy no longer exists because your lender's paid off and they've reconveyed that loan. So you've got two different policies, two different values, depending on how much equity you have in the property and what you put down.
Great. Yeah, great advice, because it's a big question we get. And keep in mind, if you are a seller, it's all negotiable on who pays for those policies. And in some cases in this market, the buyers are paying for everything. And I see that now, for people to be more competitive, is the buyers are paying for all the policies. So, but typically the buyer is responsible if they want additional coverage, the extended coverage. That's what we're going to see.
It's that 10% premium, and again, that's probably, depending on your sales price, a couple $100 or less usually.
Okay, so, and then we're going to move into a little bit more technical.
Okay.
So kind of a little bit out there, but it's important people know, and I'd like to know myself. What's the difference between a deed and a deed of trust? Because that's a question that comes up a lot.
Yes, and people, these are, in my opinion, foreign words for people, because you don't use a deed or a deed of trust very often. So when they come in here, A lot of people don't want to ask those questions, so great question. The deed is what you are given, so it records to show that you're the owner of that property. And it's the public record. It makes things official on my end. And then you've got a deed of trust, which is the loan security that goes against the property. Again, it records, it becomes public information. It's usually, if it's an institutional lender, it's usually 15 pages long with all the information.
It
that
spells out
Correct.
everything about what the loan amount is.
Yeah, and what you need to do to keep the lender happy. So it goes into all that detail. So that's the security instrument that a lender uses to say that you've got a loan against a property. If you don't have a loan, you just have a deed recorded, but you're still the owner based upon whatever that deed says.
Okay, that's great information, because there's a lot of questions about going out there and breaking up. Deed of trust is more for the instrument that lenders hold to secure their property, to make sure if something happens, they get it. And then the deed is if you just pay for cash, it just shows that the property is being sent and put in your name.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, if you didn't pay your payments on your deed of trust or your loan, lender would foreclose based upon that document being recorded.
Okay,
So
and there's a lot of problems. We won't go into it in
Exactly.
2007 and 8 about all the shenanigans that were going on. We won't go into that, because that's kind of a crazy discussion. So the biggest other thing that we get a lot of questions are, talk about community property in Nevada, and then also just kind of highlight the different ways you can hold title, because there's a lot of confusion, especially if some people are married, some people aren't. Everyone has their own different situation. Can you highlight the 5 or 6 ways that you can hold title? And
Absolutely. So again, I'm not an attorney, but I'll give you some 2 cents worth. Nevada is a community property state, so keep in mind, if you are married, the title company will start addressing that. They will want to know, is your husband going on title? He'll have to sign off on a document. So there's certain things that we have to go through as far as protocol to be sure that the title is clean when it deeds over to the buyer. Joint tenancy, we see that quite often. There's community property with right of survivorship. So if you're married, those are typically ones that we see. Depending on what your CPA advises, there might be tax advantages. And again, I'm not a CPA. Great. I don't know people's tax situations. My friend is a tax estate planning attorney, and she said that she's surprised a lot more people don't take title as community property with right of survivorship, because if something happens, then you might get bumped up into a higher tax bracket. That's just a general little 2 cents between Ken and I. But then you end up with different scenarios. We've got one right now where the parents are on title to a certain percentage with the son. You can do things like that, but again, keep in mind, if something happens to one of you and your tenants in common, it might need to go through probate. So if you're on title as a single person, again, that could be something that if something happened, it would go through probate. But that's a whole nother topic as well.
Excellent.
Just an overview.
So be talking to your lawyer. And I think that you guys have a sheet, correct? I've seen that. And you can, like I said, that the title companies have a lot of resources. Correct. Particularly First Centennial Title, that you need to be taking advantage of, because there's a little sheet that she has that spells out which one it is. And when you go fill out the homestead, I noticed, for at least Douglas County we're doing right now, it asks specifically how you're holding title. So all that stuff you need to kind of figure out and know that up front.
Yes.
Anything else? Is there anything else that I missed that would be something that comes up a lot?
All I can say is communication's key. So if you have questions, again, Ken's an awesome agent. You can call him with questions. Call me. It probably would be easier than trying to email and get information that way. But you're more than welcome to call First Centennial Title.
And like I said, they have, for example, if you are out there and you're watching this video, they have all the utilities. They have this is really nice. And you can actually call me and get this too, and I'll provide it. Several different organizations for inspections, permits, chimneys, and pest inspectors. So obviously they've done their homework. If you want to change your utilities, that's the big thing that comes up at the end. She provides you with all the lists, and you call and have it changed. And then if you guys want a relocation guide, especially if you're out of the area, people are moving here like crazy, so it kind of goes through. I saw over there when we were talked about golf courses. Pretty much anything under the sun, and it's all electronic, so we can send it to them, correct?
Correct. And there's also outlying areas. So Ken's showing you the Reno Sparks, but we've got Dayton, Lake Tahoe, Gardnerville, Minden. So there's a lot of information and resources available to you. And again, go through Ken he'll kind of navigate through that and request it from us.
Yep, and they also we use them a lot for our farms and everything. And I have to commend First Centennial on. They have great customer service. We've been working with you guys for years,
Thank
and
you.
it's top notch. So
You're awesome.
Lynne has something in the back that will address any questions you have, and there's a whole bunch of resources. So take advantage of it.
Perfect. Yes.
So
Thank you.
thanks for having me
Thank
come
you.
in. Hopefully we can have you back because there's other stuff that we can discuss. But
good.
I think we worn everyone out. So.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, you guys,
for having me.
thanks for tuning in again. Please like our videos, share them with your friends, and make sure that you're subscribing to our channel because we have a lot of great guests like Lynne coming up, and there's a lot of great information that helps everyone out in the real estate transaction.
Yes.
So,
Thank you. Thanks for being a pleasure
All right.
to work with, Ken.
you take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Too. Bye.